Hey there, today we're going to learn how to convert units of time. And what's really great about time is you're probably familiar with all of the units that we are going to use for time. We have, starting with seconds, we have minutes, we have hours, we have days, we have weeks, we also have months, and finally years. And we're going to actually look at these separately. We're going to look at these five separately. Then we're going to look at months and years. But again, we want to start with our smallest and move up to our largest. And there are some smaller units than just seconds. We have nanoseconds and milliseconds, but we're really just going to start with seconds. So that's going to be our smallest unit here. And then years, there's decades and centuries and millenniums, but we're again just going to cut it off at years. So we're going to start by building our conversion chart with seconds, then minutes, then hours, then days, and finally weeks. And if you remember, if we're going from a smaller unit to a larger unit, like seconds to minutes or minutes to hours, I'm going to be dividing my numbers because my numbers are going to be actually getting smaller. And if I'm going from a larger unit, like weeks, to a smaller unit, like days, my numbers are actually going to be getting larger. So I'm going to be multiplying when I'm moving backwards. And you're probably familiar with all of the magic numbers for our time conversions. It's simply how many of the smaller unit would be in one of the larger unit. So there are 60 seconds in 1 minute. So 60 is my magic number. 60 is also my magic number between minutes and hours because there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. There are 24 hours in 1 day, and there are 7 days in 1 week. Now, the reason that we're looking at months and years separately is because our conversion from weeks to years, or our conversion from weeks to months, would be not exact conversions. So there are about 4 weeks in 1 month, but it's not exactly 4 weeks. And there are about 52 weeks in 1 year, but again, it's not exactly 52 weeks. So for those conversions, we're just going to pull them off to the side. If I want to go from weeks to years, again, I would divide going from a smaller unit to a larger, and I would multiply from a larger to a smaller. And my magic number between weeks and years is 52. There are about 52 weeks in 1 year. And then between months and years, my magic number is 12. There are 12 months in 1 year. Okay, if you want to take a minute and pause the video so that you can copy down these conversion charts, that will help you while you are doing your problems. And let's try a few of those problems together. So let's say I have 8 days, and I want to know how many hours there are in 8 days. So again, I'm always going to start with the unit that is given to me. In this case, they give me days, and I'm trying to get to hours, so I'm working backwards. And if I follow my arrow backwards, I see that I need to multiply by 24 to get to hours. So I do 24 times 8. 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 3 is 19. So there are 192 hours and 8 days. Let's try another example. This time we'll go from a smaller unit to a larger unit. Let's say I have 360 seconds, and I want to know how many minutes that will be. So again, I start with what's given to me, and that's seconds. And going from seconds to minutes, I see that I need to divide by 60. So 360 divided by 60. And if you remember the trick with zeros in long division, if I have zeros on both sides of my equation, I can cancel zeros out as long as I cancel the same amount of zeros from both sides. So I have 1 0 over here and 1 0 over here. I can cancel them both out. And my basic division problem I have now is just 36 divided by 6, which is 6. So there are 6 minutes is equal to 360 seconds. Let's try an example where we have to go more than one space in my conversion. Let's try going from weeks to hours. So let's say I have 2 weeks, and I want to know how many hours that will be. So again, I'm simply going to start what's given to me, and that's weeks. And if I notice, to get from weeks to hours, I can't just jump from weeks to hours. I have to go from weeks to days, and then I can go from days to hours. So from weeks to days, I see that I first need to multiply by 7. So 2 times 7 is 14. And that tells me there are 14 days in 2 weeks, but that doesn't tell me how many hours there are in 2 weeks. So now I'm going to take 14 days, and I'm going to convert it to hours by multiplying by 24. So 24 times 14. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. Bring a 0 down for your placeholder. 1 times 4 is 4, and 1 times 2 is 2. And then I'm going to add those together. 6 and 0, 9 and 4, and 1 and 2. And I come up with 336 as my answer. So there are 336 hours in 2 weeks. Let's try a couple examples where we won't have an even number, where we'll have some remaining units left over that we'll have to interpret to decide our answer. So let's try a conversion with months and years. Let's say I have 38 months, and I want to know how many years that is equal to. So if I look at my conversion to get from months to years, I have to divide by 12, since there are 12 months in 1 year. So I'm going to take 38, and I'm going to divide it by 12. And I know that 12 goes into 38 3 times. 3 times 12 is 36. And there's 2 left over. Well, what does that remainder 2 mean? Well, it means that out of 38 months, we were able to make 3 full years, but there were 2 months left over. So my answer would be that there are 3 years and 2 months in 38 months. Let's try one more example like that. This time we'll go with 124 seconds. And I want to know how many minutes that's going to be. So again, if I look at my conversion chart, to get from seconds to minutes, I have to divide by 60. So I'm going to take 124 and divide it by 60. I know that 60 will go into 1 0 times, it goes into 12 0 times, and it will go into 124 2 times. 2 times 60 is 120, and when I subtract, I have a remainder of 4. So that remainder simply tells me how many seconds were left over after I created how many full minutes. So I have 2 full minutes and 4 seconds in 124 seconds.